And Melody, take it away. Okay, so I think give me 1 second here. Let me make sure. Melody, are you there?
I am here.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so please take it away.
Great. Well, thank you for that introduction. My name is Melody Medley. I am with Oyezz Real Estate. I have definitely processed over 500 short sales. That is what makes me successful. I have personally closed on over 500 short sales. So, about Oyezz Real Estate, what makes us creditable besides our closing is we have a full-time team of processors and negotiators as a real estate attorney who we use very frequently to help us through any difficult title issues that we may come across with these short sales. I've also had experience with practically every mortgage lender you can think of that's out there. Old, new, you name it, I've probably dealt with them either once or more than once throughout a short sale. So a lot of you may be wondering, what is a short sale? A short sale is basically when the property is sold for less than what is owed on the mortgage balance. There's an example down here. If the mortgage balance is $85,000 and the as-is value or the appraised value is $60,000, that means that the lender will take a difference of $25,000. They're going to basically wash their hands clean of $25,000. I like to say that the property's upside down. They owe more than what the property's worth. So the lender is going to be taking a short on the mortgage. That's where short sale comes from, is when the banks take a short of the mortgage. It's not short in time. These short sales can actually take anywhere. I've done one as quick as 30 days, and then I've had ones that have dragged out for over a year. And that really depends on the type of loan it is, the type of lender we're dealing with, really depends on the longevity of the short sale. And just a little side note down here is a short sale is pre-foreclosure. That means we are trying to stop the foreclosure at any and all costs. It's not an REO or after foreclosure.
Melody, could you explain a little bit about the FHA part and if it adds any complications?
Oh, thank you, Steve. I missed that that line. So when a seller has an FHA loan, the HUD is the one insuring the loan. Therefore, they will say that 99.9% of the time, and out of the 500 short sales that I've done, the lenders have never sought recourse for that balance waive. So in this example, the balance waive was $25,000. So FHA loans say that they will not seek recourse against the seller for that deficiency, meaning the seller doesn't have to pay that back. They've washed their hands clean. Seller doesn't owe anything. They get to walk away from their mortgage free and clear through a short sale. Typically with first lien holders, they will always agree to no recourse. Second lien holders, I've had maybe a handful. If there's a second lien, a second mortgage, they have to take a short as well on their mortgage. And like I said, a handful have sought recourse for the deficiency, but that's with the second lien holder, not a first. A first will 99.9% waive the deficiency. Okay. So like I mentioned before, I call short sales, they're upside down, meaning that they owe more than what the property's worth. It could be a combination of liens. I've had homeowners who have an HOA lien, a partial claim, meaning they've done a loan modification. So now there's a lien on for that. So with all the liens combined with the first mortgage lien, the second lien, HOA lien, a loan modification lien, that can make a property upside down. We've had it really close where the homeowner would have to bring money to closing just to make the deal work. So actually we can turn that into a short sale. So if the seller believes that they have some equity and we're pulling the comps, we're looking at the payoff, we're looking at the other liens, and we say, yeah, we can sell it at market value, but you would have to bring money to closing, we can flip that around and make that into a short sale, because if the seller doesn't have any money, which normal short sale clients don't have money, that can be a short sale. Another short sale scenario is a seller has applied for loan modifications. We've seen it both ways, where they've applied, been approved, and then 6 months later, they're still back in the same situation where they can't afford their mortgage, so they're falling behind on payments again, so they have to do a short sale. Or the number one reason for them to do a short sale is they were denied for a loan modification, meaning the bank did not approve them to redo their loan for lower payments, most likely because they do not have the income to show that they have enough money to keep up with their mortgage payments. So really how it goes on the mortgage side is, if you're missing payments, you want to try for a loan modification. If you've been denied, your only next step is going to be a short sale. After short sale, it's foreclosure. So after, we get a lot of referrals from investors who have tried to do like a subject to or a wrap, they're trying to be creative in their ways, and ultimately the seller's just too far behind, they're too far delinquent to even reinstate the loan. So that's a short sale. I call myself the trash bucket, because we're literally the last option the seller has before a foreclosure. So when you're looking on MLS Deal Finder and you're looking for deals and you see that there are negative equity on your spreadsheets, that's a key to say, okay, this could possibly be a short sale. If there's negative equity, meaning they're upside down, that's going to be your short sale. So if the comps are saying the property's worth 200, but you've talked to the seller and they owe 250, they're upside down 50,000. So if you can't reinstate the loan with creative financing or strategies, then that's going to be a short sale. When you're also looking on this list, you want to make sure that the mortgage bank name is a name that you recognize. Mainly it's going to be, Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and there's going to be some off-beaten mortgage lenders like Cenlar, Bayview. Those are kind of some smaller ones. But if you see one that's in an LLC name, it's probably an owner financing or a private lender who gave that seller their money and lent them the money. Private lenders and hard money lenders will not agree to short sales. Their whole goal is to possibly foreclose and just put somebody else into the property again. So they will not agree to do short sales. But all the other banks, most definitely, they will do short sales. I think we mentioned this already about the loan modifications, whether they've done one and been approved or done one and been denied. Again, after loan modification, their only step before foreclosure is a short sale. So for the seller, the short sales have to have a hardship. If somebody's missing payments, there's a reason why. It could be divorce or separation, death of one of the borrowers, bankruptcy, loss of job, or even loss of hours. I've seen a lot of sellers who had, a great job going, but now that business is kind of slowing down. So in return, their hours are being cut, so they can't afford their mortgage payments anymore. Maybe they've saved up a lot of money and they've exhausted that savings account. And they can't keep up with the payments now because they are not making enough money or have the hours to make that money. Basically, the bottom line is if the borrowers or the sellers, if their expenses are more than their income, they qualify for a short sale. Not every person who applies for a short sale has to miss a payment. We have a few sellers who haven't missed payments, but their expenses are more than their monthly income, so it's inevitable that they are going to miss a payment down the road. So they're just being proactive and want to sell it now, and the property's upside down. Therefore, they can do a short sale. There are exceptions for short sales. Forced relocation due to military orders. The lenders will take a short sale for these two reasons. So forced relocation and job transfer. Banks understand, life happens. So if they need to relocate for one of the two reasons, they will entertain a short sale. How am I doing, Steve? We got any questions so far? Am I going too fast?
We're good.
Good? Okay. So what are the benefits to the seller? Why would a seller want to do a short sale? We know what a short sale is. We know what the lender will do. So why would a seller want to do it? Well, first and foremost, to avoid a foreclosure. Hands down, foreclosures are going to be in the public record forever. They may, and that may not resonate with a lot of sellers at first. Okay, who cares? Yeah, if I die in, 30 years, big whoop. But, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, they can see this. Now, whether that has an effect on them or not, hey, that's in, eye of the beholder. But it is, and it will affect your credit as a foreclosure. I know foreclosures can affect your credit for 6, 7, 10 years even. It can affect future employment. This one is what I stress to my sellers, is that it may not be affecting you right now in your current position, but let's say in 3 years, do you want to apply for airlines or insurance companies? We had one gentleman who worked for installing home security systems. He let his wife handle the payments and handled all the financials. She let the property go into foreclosure. He was up for a reevaluation at his job for a promotion. They saw that the property foreclosed. Not only did he not get his promotion, but he got fired, because in a company's perspective or point of view, they see, okay, if you can't handle your own finances, how are you going to maintain your job and do it successful? So future employment is something that I stress to the sellers that I'm dealing with is, yes, right now it may not be important, about it being in the public record, future employment, it may not be important now, but just think about the future and the effects it can have on you. So that's one of the main benefits. The second main benefit is you don't owe the bank back any money. They're not going to seek the deficiency. There will be no judgment, no recourse. Again, with FHA loans, it's guaranteed. If they have a conventional loan, again, first lien holders, I have not had one first lien holder mortgage lender ever deny for recourse. It's always been granted, no recourse. And I make sure that it's in the approval letter. Once the short sale is successful, the bank will give you an approval letter, and I make sure it's written in that letter. The sellers may receive what we call incentive money or relocation money throughout the process. We urge the sellers to stay in their house during the short sale process, since it's going to take in average about 4 to 7 months to complete the short sale. We say, hey, stay in the property, save your money, because there's going to be that time where you're going to have to move and sell it. But in the meantime, stay in there, because they need to be maintaining the property, keeping the utilities on, mowing the grass, making sure, the city's not coming to find them for debris or overgrown grass, whatever the case may be. But FHA loans will actually give the sellers $3,000 relocation money. So that's a great incentive to have, is, hey, stay in your house. You don't have to pay your mortgage. Save your money, and in the end, you could actually receive money. So that's a great selling point for a lot of our sellers. We talked about received additional time in the house. It's a great opportunity for them to save their money, because right now they probably don't have any money. They've been laid off. Maybe they're in a divorce. Who knows what their situation is, but it's always revolved around a financial hardship. So if they get to stay in the house and save money, it's a win-win for them. And then it's no cost to the seller for them to do a short sale, for them to enlist a real estate agent and have the agent process the short sale for them. The agents, myself, I get paid from the commission of the sale that the seller's lender pays for. So no cost to the seller. It doesn't cost me anything. My time, of course, but I get compensated from the commission. So these are all the benefits to why a seller would want to do a short sale. So benefits to you guys, the investors, the ones who are out there door knocking, mailing, going through these lists and calling. The benefits to an investor, it's an opportunity to purchase the property at a discount. So we know that the property's upside down. They owe more than what the property's worth. The bank will always do an appraisal or a BPO, which is a broker's price opinion. So either one of those, the value will come back, and it will always be less than what the value is of the property, because we're selling it as is. So as is meaning, yes, the roof needs to be repaired, the fence is broken, there's foundation issues, it needs new paint and appliances. All those things will take away from the value of the house. So that's why you'll get a discount. It's because when the appraiser or the BPO goes out, they're going to take into account that whole list of repairs and come back with a value. It provides a solution to your sellers to avoid foreclosure. So you're out there, you want to help these homeowners. They're on the foreclosure list. If you can't be creative or unable to because the seller just owes way too much money, you do have an option for them. It's a short sale. A lot of investors I speak with say, oh, well, that's a dead lead. Since we can't do anything with it, we just throw it away. Well, hey, don't do that. Send it over. It's a short sale. So you're helping the sellers avoid foreclosure. And of course, when the short sale is successful, they're going to be so thankful that they're going to run and tell their friends. We've gotten a lot of referrals from our sellers because we've helped them. Or they'll call back that investor. They'll say, oh my gosh, Steve, help me. I'm going to call, I'm going to tell my friend about Steve. And so we get a lot of referrals that way because you are able to provide a solution for your sellers. It could be another deal in your portfolio. So instead of a dead lead, you guys could actually purchase the property through the short sale. And then you want to monetize every single lead. So how we work at Oyezz is if you're marketing, you find that a seller meets the criteria of a short sale, you send it over. In return, I will try to get you the property through the short sale. Now I'm going to tell you, if it's a really nice, pretty house, it just needs paint, carpet, lipstick, I'm going to tell you that the appraisal value is probably going to come back high and your numbers aren't going to work. So in return, we'll actually pay you a referral fee for sending it over. So our goal is either to get you the property or to get you some money for sending it over. But in return, our main goal here is to help the homeowners avoid the foreclosure. So that's what it means by monetize every single lead is, hey, either get the property or get money for the property. And we'll talk about that a little bit later too. Steve, we doing good?
Yeah, we're doing good. I think I do have a
late.
question, but I think you're going to answer the process and all that in the next one. And how does the investor kind of benefit from a process standpoint? How do they get the deal? Do they get the referral? So I'm gonna
Gotcha. Okay. Well, hold that thought, and then maybe this will help. So the short sale process, basically, kind of from beginning to end, just a timeline. The homeowner agrees to a short sale, and we have a team here who goes out, meets with the homeowners, gets them to sign up the paperwork. The paperwork's not small. It's probably about 40 to 60 pages, and that's because each lender has their own specific forms that they want filled out, and we have all those. If we know it's Bank of America, we got our Bank of America package, and we're ready to head out the door. So we'll go meet with the homeowner, get them all signed up. The lenders will require that the property be listed by a real estate agent. That's just a rule that they have. They want to make sure that we're marketing and getting the highest offer that we can get. We submit the short sale package, that 40 to 60 page packet I was telling you about. We submit that to the lender. We get the ball rolling. Then the lender will order the appraisal. So this is the make or break part of the short sale. We were talking about, when the value comes back, the BPO will consider repairs and appraisals should consider repairs too. But if we get a high value that comes back on a very distressed property, I'm stuck. I can't sell it. So we encourage that the investors meet the appraisers at the property, that you guys have a repair bid already made up because you guys know you're in the business. You have to hire the contractors to do this work. So you know exactly what to look for when you're checking out the house. And when you talk to the seller, you're going to look at everything that needs to be fixed. So we encourage to have a repair bid, maybe even comps. And that's something that I can help with, or MLS Deal Finder can help you get your comps. So when you're meeting the appraiser, you want to present all the information, what needs to be repaired. We even help investors discredit some of the other comps, meaning, it's a battle of the comps when it comes to pretty houses. So if we're going to show an appraiser comps, we're going to say, hey, well, the house next door sold this high, but for this reason is because they put in granite countertops. They have hardwood floors. We're going to give them the overall, the huge picture, because we want a fair value to return. We don't need an appraiser to go out there or a BPO agent to go out there and say, oh, great, it's got 4 walls and a roof, awesome, $300,000. When we know it's going to take, $80,000 to fix. So meeting the appraiser is the most important thing. I can't stress that enough because it affects you as the investor trying to buy the property, and then it affects me as the agent trying to sell the property. If we get some outrageous, crazy value, we're stuck, and we may have to keep that value for 4 months, and we can't dispute it until after 4 months. So this is where you're going to be able to find the deals with short sales, is getting a low value back when you talk to the appraiser or the BPO agent. So once we have the approved price and that comes from the appraisal value, that's what the bank's going to want. Some lenders, now it just depends on some lenders and the types of loan, usually conventional loans and smaller banks, we can dispute their value. If they come back and say this is 200, I can go back and say, where did you come up with this number? And I can present the repair bids directly to the short lender and dispute the value that way. And depending on which lender, I'll give you some examples. Ocwen or SPS, they're great lenders to do value disputes with. That's what I call it, a value dispute, when I'm just disputing the appraised value that they came up with. They are very reasonable to negotiate with on the values because they're a conventional loan. They have private note holders who I can deal with versus dealing with FHA and HUD. They are very strict. It is very, very hard to dispute values with FHA loans. So, but having an experienced real estate agent to help you negotiate and fight values really helps you guys as investors trying to get the properties through a short sale. So once we have that approved price, that's basically what the bank wants, depending on if it's conventional or FHA, depends on if I can dispute the value or not. But ultimately, the bank's going to come back and say, we have to have this amount, X amount of money. We have to have that. So then we would come back to the investor, say, hey, you guys have first right of refusal. Do you want this? Do you want in or out? And if you guys take out, then I will have to list the property at what the bank wants and find a buyer that way and go to closing pretty much from there. So number 7 says submit the purchase offer with the required net. With FHA loans and conventional loans, the banks are going to want 88% of the appraised value for their net. So if the bank says, okay, this house appraises for $100,000, we get an offer at $100,000, the bank's take home after all closing costs. That means settlement fees, title insurance, commission, HOA, if there's a city lien, whatever the case may be, they want to bring home 88%. So that would be $88,000 if the value was $100,000. So in past experiences, a bank has come in and appraised the property at $100,000, but with all my other liens, I've had to increase sales price to like $105 just so the bank could get their 88%. So it really depends on the title and the other liens that they have too. But ultimately, they want 88% of the appraised value. Then once we submit the offer that they want, it meets their net, then the lender will issue what's called the approval letter. Within the approval letter, it will outline the net, the closing date that we must close by. It will also include that the lender will not seek recourse. That's pretty much it in the approval letter, and then you schedule for closing. So we kind of talked about this already, about the time frame, 4 to 5 months. So back it on.
Melody, can I chime in here?
Yes.
Yeah. So guys, the first time I heard about Oyezz was actually through our own software. At the time, we were pretty new to the market in the Dallas area, and we were going, hey, how come we keep seeing these properties that are deals on the MLS, and it always says Oyezz, and that was kind of the first time that we were kind of introduced to you guys, kind of from an organization standpoint, and that we knew that you guys are kind of short sale specialists, that you guys do this all the time, which is very interesting. I do have 2 questions for you from Gary.
Okay.
The first question is, if the BPO considers repair costs, but the investor has to incur repair costs, then where would the profit be for the investor? I guess if you can kind of show some numbers. I think you mentioned a little bit of that during your talk just now, during your previous slide. But if you can kind of show some numbers as well.
Well, basically, whatever the value comes back at is what the lender wants. So they should already be including in that value the repairs needed. So if this is so let's say the bank comes, I'll try to give you an example. The BPO or the appraisal should be accounting for those repairs needed. So when you meet the appraiser and you're showing him your own repair bid, you're factoring in the repairs right then and there. So the BPO agent or appraiser should be taking that into account when they come back with the value. So the value is the as-is value. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that answers the question. And Gary, if you have follow-up questions, feel free to use the chat. His next question is, if the appraisal comes in really low, then will the house be sold to sell to a third party when it is listed on the MLS? How can we make sure that the investor, if I'm bringing you the short sale, is there a way where we can make sure that we get the deal?
Well, it's all based upon that value. That's the make or break of a short sale. So yeah, if we can get that appraiser or BPO agent to understand the current condition of that house, then we will get back a fair value. And yeah, if it comes in low, if it's a distressed property, oh yeah, guarantee that value is coming in low. But once it gets to that point of the short sale where we're ordering the appraiser, we're getting the value back, it's a good value, we're finding a buyer, the bank 9 out of 10 times is not going to move forward with a foreclosure. So once we get that value back, we're so deep into the short sale, the investor or the note holder has already agreed to do a short sale. So the foreclosure is basically suspended during the time we're doing the short sale.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hey Gary, does that answer your question? Gary?
So when I work with investors, they have first right of refusal the whole way. So we start the short sale, I get their offer, I submit their offer, they meet the appraiser. I think it's 80% and the investor must pay 6%. Can you read that question out? It's like I saw it, but it disappeared.
Yeah, okay, so if the bank gets 66% of appraised value, and the investor has to pay 6% selling commissions plus about 22% for closing costs, then with off of that 12%, there's only a 4% margin.
The buyers, you guys don't pay anything in the short sale except your own closing costs. So whatever the title company fees are, that's all you're paying. The short lender pays for all the closing costs. They'll pay for the title insurance, they pay the commissions, they'll pay the seller's settlement fee. So you as the buyer are only paying the purchase price plus, whatever little fees the title company wants to charge you.
Yeah, so Gary, maybe if I can chime in, when you're purchasing the property, you're getting it from the appraised value, which is already at the distressed value.
Correct.
So your margin is going to be where the distressed value is comparing to what the market value of or the after repair value of the property. That's going to be where your margin is.
Yes.
So the other question from Daniel, when they bring the value lower after including repair costs, we can offer 88% of that and confidently get an acceptance.
No. So that's where the confusion comes from, and I'm sorry if I'm not explaining it good. So if the appraised value comes in at $100,000, that's what the offer has to be at, is $100,000. Now the short lender, when it's all said and done with, after all the closing costs, they have to take home 88% of that appraised value. So you're still submitting the offer at the appraised value, but the bank Since they have to pay all the closing costs, commissions, all that good stuff, city liens, HOAs, whatever the case may be, the bank is netting 88% of the appraised value. You can't offer the 88% because now they would be accepting less than the 88%.
Right. So
if the bank says, go ahead, Steve.
So 12% is paying for the commission costs and the closing costs. And
yeah.
Is there any other part that accounts for that 12%? Like, let's just say that if we add everything up, it doesn't add up to the 12%, right? So what does the rest of the percentage go?
It depends. It could be city liens, HOAs, whatever the case may be. There's been situations where there's, property taxes too. I'm leaving that one out. So sorry. So they pay the property taxes. They prorate it to the day of closing. The banks will pay that. There's been situations where the bank wanted $100,000, but there was only property taxes to be paid. So we could actually decrease the appraised value to meet the 88%.
Got it. Okay.
So I think this one, they ended up paying like $98,000 instead of $100,000. Or vice versa, if there's a lot of liens and they can't meet their 88%, I have to increase the sales price or the appraised value just so the bank could take home their 88%.
Got it. That's just my.
So it's really a numbers game, but the bottom line is the bank wants 88% one way or the other. So however we can work the sales price number, if we can lower it to your benefit, heck yeah, we'll do it. If we can't, we may, I have to run the numbers first. I'll do a preliminary HUD and I'll come back and say, hey, the bank says 100,000, but I can get it to you for 98. Or vice versa, if there's a lot of liens, I'll say, hey, the bank wants 100, they appraise at 100, but in order to clear all these liens and get them the 88%, it's going to be 102.
Yeah, okay. And also, Gary, I guess Melody and I can talk after this, and we can give you guys we can send out an example of some numbers, kind of demonstrate where the investors' profits are and all that stuff. Right, Melody?
Are you talking about like you as the investor or the investor as the note holder?
The investor as the person that finds the short sale opportunity.
Oh, okay, sure.
Wait.
Are we done with questions? Should I go on?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So time frame, average is 4 to 5 months. That's what we've been doing. Again, just depending on the lender and the type of loan, it could drag out for a little bit longer. If we're doing value disputes, we did one with Aquin, and it took us probably 14 months. But it was worth it because the investor got a huge discount, so it was worth it to everybody in the end. The seller, again, they're not having to repay back the difference or the deficiency. So even if we get the value lower, it doesn't affect the seller any more or any less. If the home is in major need of repairs, I said that wrong. If the home is not in need of major repairs, just cosmetics, you will not get a discount. Basically, the appraiser is going to appraise it for the as-is value, and if it's a nice house, it's going to appraise high. That happens, and that's when we just throw it on the market and find a retail buyer in that case. But again, in return, if you referred it over, you would get a referral fee. FHA loans do require the property to be listed for 15 days after the appraised value is determined. They're just wanting to make sure that the highest and best offer is received possible. Because the banks, they are accepting a loss, but they want to minimize that loss. So the higher offer they can get, of course, the less they lose, so it makes them happy. So that's why they put on this. It has to be listed for 15 days before an offer is received. Here's a big thing. There are going to be deed restrictions with conventional loans. If the seller has a conventional loan, just guarantee yourself that there's going to be a 30 to 90 day deed restrictions. That means that within the first 30 days, you cannot sell the property. You can't transfer the deed over to anyone, not within the first 30 days. Now, the 31st day, absolutely you can. And during this time that you have the deed restriction, you can still market, you can do your rehab, you can do whatever you want. The deed just cannot transfer for the first 30 days. And typically, it's 30 to 90 days. So the 31st to the 90th day, you can't sell it for 120% of what you bought it for. You can sell it for 119%, just not 120. On your contracts, you cannot put and or signs. You can't say that the buyer is, ABC, LLC, and or signs. The bank will not accept it. The reason why is that the banks, they approve each offer and each buyer specifically. So when we get that approval letter, it's going to put ABC, LLC. They will not accept and or signs because they cannot verify who these and or signs are. They don't know who they are or the relationship to the seller. In a short sale, you're always going to sign what's pretty much either called an arm's length affidavit, meaning in this affidavit, it's stating that the buyer, the seller, the buyer's agent, the selling agent, no one is related in the transaction. Because there's a rule that you cannot be related to the seller, whether it's business or, by blood, because the bank doesn't want that person buying the property and then giving it right back to the seller, who is going to just be in the same situation they were in to begin with. So the and or signs, they cannot prove who the and or signs people are. They cannot verify that they are not related to the seller. Therefore, they will not accept the and or signs.
So Melody, got a question here from an investor standpoint. Is buying a short sale property, is that better than an REO property or not? What's the difference, and so on and so forth?
That's a great question. Honestly, I don't really work on the other side. I have no idea. I know that some of my properties have gone into foreclosure. And I called the foreclosure attorneys and I asked what they sold it for, and it was more than what they would have gotten from the short sale. So in that scenario, yeah, it would have been better that the investor could have bought it through the short sale as opposed to on the auction, on the courthouse steps. But I'm sorry, I do not know what the foreclosures, what I know that they start the pricing out higher because they need to be compensated for the mortgage. But when you owe more than what the property's worth and then they're trying to sell it for that much on the courthouse steps, it seems kind of backwards that you would be paying more for a property on the foreclosures. But again, guys, I'm not familiar with foreclosures. After it forecloses, I don't know what happens to it. I am pre-foreclosure the whole way.
He means a REO sale. So Gary, the REO sale means the property has already been foreclosed and it's being sold by an REO agent, and it's listed on the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess let me think about it. From a bank standpoint, they're willing to take a particular discount in order to sell it, and for it to be sold quickly. And so from an investor standpoint, I guess and Melody, you can chime in. I could be wrong, but it really depends on how much the bank is how much loss the bank is willing to take when they're selling it through an REO, because that's gonna determine how much discount you're gonna get as an investor. And if you're getting it from a short sale, how is the price determined from a short sale? It's got to be on the from an appraisal standpoint, right, Melody?
Correct. Yeah. There's no mathematic, statistic or equation that you can use to say, oh, this is going to be the value of this house and they're going to take this much of a loss on the mortgage. It's all about the appraised value, and what that comes back at is what they will agree to take a loss on. Gotcha.
So one versus the other, I think it's just kind of within the process of the foreclosure, whether we're gonna turn it into a short sale or an REO. It goes all the way to foreclosure and it gets sold by the REO. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of what the actual sold price is gonna be.
Yeah, and I can tell you through a short sale that you will get a clear title. That is one of my responsibilities, processing the short sale, or any agent processing a short sale. They have to clear the title. So when you go to closing, you'll have a clear commitment. I know foreclosures, sometimes you don't know what you're buying or what's going to be on that title. So maybe that's another benefit for a short sale, at least from a title perspective.
Oh, I got a really good comment or question here. For the homeowner, do they get to live in the house for free while the short sale is pending? If that's the case, then if they don't have to make any mortgage payments, then it gives them an incentive to agree to a short sale.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they can stay in the house for free. We encourage them. That goes along with them receiving the relocation or incentive money. If they're maintaining the property, then they will, meaning that they're paying for the utilities, mowing the yard, things like that. The bank will incentivize them by giving them relocation money through the short sale. With an FHA loan, it's up to $3,000. Conventional loans, I've seen them pay out up to $5,000. So we definitely encourage all the homeowners to just stay in the property so they can save their money. Yes, they're not making their mortgage payments, so save that money because you are going to have to move when we sell the house. And so that way they'll be prepared financially to make that move. Because you got to remember, guys, these people, their credit is being hit every month from the missed payments. So a lot of them are going to have to put down a larger deposit. If it's for an apartment or, somebody who's renting out their house, they're going to see that their credit is bad. So they may have to put more money down to be able to move into that new house. So we say, please save your money as best possible so you can make that transition when the time comes.
Gotcha. So I guess from a negotiation standpoint, there's probably more incentive for the homeowner to do a short sale instead of having to go through foreclosure and all that stuff. So that could be one of the reasons that we want to do a short sale. I think what Gary also wants you to do to see is kind of from a number standpoint, where the profit is that goes to the investor who's going to purchase that property. And so I guess if we can kind of come up with that, maybe come up with a quick example for Gary, either during this session or maybe even after, I can send it to everybody. I think that's gonna probably answer Gary's question.
Okay, yeah, only thing I can just say about that is it all depends on the appraised value. If the value comes in good, where you can purchase the property, still make the repairs, and list it and make money, hey, you're good to go.
Yeah, and then there might be some cases where it comes back and it doesn't make sense for you to purchase the property as an investor. And in that case, you're making the referral fee instead
Yes.
of having a lead that you can't do anything with. Because if
Exactly.
that property is already under the water and you already start talking to the homeowner or the seller, you can either just let it go to waste or kind of through the short sale and help them and then get a little bit of financial incentive for that.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay, so one more. We got quite a few questions.
Okay.
Thank you guys for the question. It's actually very, very, very good. Does a homeowner and the investor have to talk to the bank to determine if they are open to a short sale, or is it just a homeowner agreeing to a short sale with the investor and the investor connects someone to start the process?
Oh, awesome question. Yeah, typically our investors, when they're meeting the homeowners, you guys are doing your research before you go out there. You're pulling your comps. You're looking at the county appraisal district to see, what the property value could be worth. Comps will tell you what the ARV is. And then when you get to the house, I'm sure you're assessing it, mentally. You're seeing large cracks in the wall or, the roof is damaged, whatever the case may be. And then, of course, I'm sure you guys ask them what their payoff is. So if the numbers are upside down, they don't make any sense, and you see that, wow, you guys have missed 8 payments, now you're, $15,000 behind. I can't, as an investor, pay that 15. I can't, make that work in any way in my mind. Then you would say, I have somebody who specializes in your situation, and I'm going to have Melody with Oyezz Real Estate give you a call. And that's really all the setup we need. That way, when we reach out or I reach out to the seller, I can say, hey, I got your information from Steve. He said I could be of some help for you. And then we kind of talk them in, I won't say talk them into it, but we guide them on what a short sale is. And we explain everything on their role, their bank's role, the investor's role, your guys' role, putting in the offer. So we lay it all out for them. And then, yes, it's ultimately up to the seller because they'll have to sign a listing agreement with me and a bunch of other forms. So, yeah, once we make that phone call with the seller, if they say, yes, this is something I'd like to do, because ultimately the biggest hurdle we've seen with these short sales and the sellers is that they have to sell their property. Some of them aren't ready. They think that they can find money, from an uncle, or, maybe they'll get a bonus on their job or something. But inevitably, if we can see a history of non-payments and if they don't have the income to support the payments, then we let them know, like, hey, and you're just going down, a bad road here. You're going to face foreclosure. You might as well do the short sale. And then we give them the benefits, like, yes, you can stay in your house for free for all these months, save your money. So I feel like I was ranting and I lost my train of thought. Sorry, guys.
Melody, what cities do you guys work in?
All of DFW. Yeah, DFW, HEB area, you name it. We're all around here. And we actually even do San Antonio.
You guys do San Antonio. What about Austin, Houston area?
Austin, actually, we were in the market for about a year and only had 2 short sales. So we just got away from that. There doesn't seem to be short sales down there. Houston, we used to be down there about 2 years ago, and we haven't been back, but we've been getting a lot of calls from investors asking us to. So we think we might pick it back up in Houston, but that's to be determined.
Yeah, and the same thing for Austin. Let's say we have a short sale property that there's nothing else we can do. It needs to be short sale. Should we call you, or should we find at least at the moment?
I still have connections in Austin, so if I personally can't help you, then I have somebody in Austin who can.
Excellent. So we can still call you and
absolutely
practice with someone. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you bet.
Another question from Hector: finder's fees. Who pays for the finder's fees?
The referral fee comes out of my commission. I will pay that out of my commission.
Great. Cool. So I think you got a couple more slides, Melody, and if you guys have questions, keep it coming.
Awesome. So maybe this will help. The short sale misconceptions. I think we already kind of touched on this. There's no mathematical equation for what price the lender will accept. I couldn't tell you. If you gave me a mortgage payoff and you gave me the address, I cannot sit here and tell you, oh, the bank will want this much money. I can't tell you that. No one can. It is all about that appraised value. Whatever that value is what the bank is going to want. Now, again, we can kind of play with the numbers because we know they're going to want 88% of that value after all the closing costs are paid and taken care of. Then we can kind of play with the numbers to see if we really have to submit an offer at that appraised value or if we can come in a little bit lower and still make the numbers work. Another misconception is that cash offers make the approval process faster. Now, in a traditional sale, yes, by all means, cash is king, right? But in a short sale, it still takes the same amount of time. The bank doesn't care how they get their money. If it's cash, financing, private lending, they don't care. As long as they're getting their money, they want it. So it does not speed up the process any faster. I wish it did, but it does not. Another misconception is that the seller has to pay for repairs or clean the house. No. Absolutely not. Again, it is sold as is, and that appraised value will come back as is. So the seller, we tell them, hey, you don't have any money right now. You need to save so you can move. So don't make any repairs. Plus, if you're making repairs to the house before the appraiser comes out, now the appraiser is going to see all the nice repairs that you did and increase the value. So we tell them, just leave it alone. It is sold as is. What you see is what you get. And that relieves a lot of sellers because they think that they have to make all these repairs because they're thinking traditionally. But this is a short sale. It's pretty much the opposite. So a short sale, is it quicker than a traditional sale? No. And I think that's very clear at this point. 4 to 7 months, sometimes longer. But to benefit of the seller, they get to stay in the property longer without paying their mortgage, so that makes them happy. All short sales are the same. I think I've given you a few examples of why this is not true. FHA loans versus conventional loans. Different lenders, like Bank of America, is going to take longer to do their short sale versus Ocwen. Ocwen's really fast. They got their process down, mainly because Ocwen handles conventional loans, and Bank of America seems like they do a lot of FHA loans. So with FHA loans, there are more strict guidelines that the lenders have to follow. Another really big misconception is that all offers must be presented to the lender for a decision. That's not true at all. The seller can only have one executed contract at a time. That is a TREC rule, hands down, only one executed contract. So let's say that I'm working with you, the investor. I have your offer. The seller's executed it. We sent it to the bank for a review. If another offer comes in, I simply tell that other agent, your offer is a backup. If this current offer happens to fall through, I will let you know. But I cannot submit another offer to the bank if they already have one. What that will do is will confuse the bank. They're going to get confused and say, why do I have two offers? I was looking at this one. Now you have a new one. So they can only review one offer at a time as well. Because again, the bank is reviewing that buyer specifically. And the seller can only have one executed contract at a time. So that is a false statement. All these are false, by the way, if you haven't caught on. The listing agent controls the sales price. I think we've beat that nail several times. I don't control anything. It's the appraised value that does. So again, what we always say here at Oyezz is don't trash it, cash it. There's no additional work needed except a few extra words. I think a gentleman was asking about that before. Is basically, if you can't do anything with the lead, they're upside down, then you're going to refer to Oyezz Real Estate. You're going to say, hey, somebody at Oyezz who specializes in your situation will be calling you and explaining the next steps of the process. And that really just helps with the transition. Instead of me just calling them out of the blue, they have no idea who I am. They may not trust me, but since you were at their house or you met them, you were on the phone, you talked to them, if you say, hey, yeah, Oyezz will be calling, it really helps just to set up the transition for us to be able to talk to them and walk them through the short sale process. So you would just email over the seller's name, their phone number, and their property address, and we'd basically take it from there, and we'll keep you in the loop the whole way if it was your referral. So really, yeah, it's don't change what you do, just maximize on it. If you're already going to meet the homeowner, you're already pulling the comps, you're already doing all this work, instead of just saying, oh, this is a dead lead, I can't do anything with it, you just say, wait, this is a short sale. Now I know who to go to. So here's all our information. If you want to email this, we can email you over the form that has the spot for the seller's information, and then it's our agreement that we will work with you, put in your offer, and it also states that if you don't get the property, then we will pay you a 15% referral fee out of my commission. I think that's it.
Great. I got lots of questions for you.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, so could you go back to the previous slide, Melody? Let's just keep your contact information on.
Okay.
Does the bank appoint the appraiser?
The bank hires a third-party appraisal company, and that company contacts me.
So
the appraisal company does not work for the bank.
Okay. And what about intentional damage by the seller after the appraisal is, I guess, all decided and all that?
Can you repeat that, please?
What about there's intentional damage by the seller after the appraisal has been completed?
Oh, that's a great question. I've never had that happen. Because the seller is not going to want, are you talking about like a seller purposefully damages the property, or are you saying like natural disaster type?
Correct.
Correct to both. Okay, well, if the seller damages the property, which is, I've never had that happen, because that they're basically jeopardizing their own short sale and their own salvation, so they won't do that. And we make sure that they know that. So luckily, I've never had that happen. If it's natural disaster, then we would have to go back to the bank and let them know, and they would have to order a new appraisal.
Gotcha. I guess a couple questions from Houston. Since Houston had the flood, from your experience, do you believe a lot of banks will be open to short sales for homes that have been flooded?
That's kind of what we're debating at Oyezz is should we go into that market? I know that there are some investors out there who are doing short sales, but I think a lot of the homes actually have insurance. So the banks are making them file claims. And if they didn't have flood insurance, then they're saying go to FEMA and ask them to pay you money. So I'm not really sure how it's all working down there right now because there's different programs that the homeowners can apply for. So I honestly, I don't have an answer to that. I'm kind of curious myself. I want to start reaching out to my Houston investors and see what they're doing and running into and the issues that they're having.
Yeah, Melody, I
If
think
any,
you
yeah,
guys.
maybe the banks are taking a huge loss. I don't know.
Yeah, Melody, I definitely think you guys should look into providing some services in Houston. I do see that as an opportunity for short sales, especially with the homes that got flooded. And, the whole thing about the FEMA insurance is that we don't know if there's enough money to cover everybody.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and we don't really think so. So from that kind of situation, how that pans out, I think we'll all find out in very 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 soon. Maybe
Yeah.
we're already seeing some
Well,
cases.
that's true. And if we're looking at it from the bank's point of view, or the note holder who owns the note, they're going to say, okay, well, if this house is flooded, you can't get insurance on it. FEMA won't pay out, so they can either take their luck at the foreclosure steps, which may yield them less money than a short sale. So the banks may be more interested to do a short sale because they believe maybe they could get a little bit more money out of it. It could go either way.
Right, and guys, just to give you a little bit of reference, when houses go on foreclosure, there's a lot of costs the bank has to pay, including the REO fees, and they actually kind of have to fix up the house a little more a lot of times, and pay for maintenance fees and all that for these REO
Yeah.
properties. So there's a little more incentive for for the bank to have the property go through short sale than going straight to foreclosure. So that's something to kind of think about too. Yeah, and so I have folks who I got another question that says, "Hey, if you guys don't work at the Houston market yet, do you have a company that you can send us to?" So while you guys are deciding, I guess maybe the best action to do right now is if we find a short sale opportunity in Houston, give you guys a call. And if you guys are already servicing there, you guys can help them. Otherwise, you guys can send them to the right person.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and if we get a lot of leads, we have a handful right now that we're trying to vet to see, what the situation is, and if we get, just bombarded with them, then yeah, we'll most definitely just open up in Houston. But yeah, if we don't, then we definitely have people we can refer you guys to.
So for people who are getting started, how do they find short sales?
Well, there's a few different ways. You can look on the MLS Deal Finder. If there's negative equity, then you can contact that homeowner, see what their situation is. You find out that they're upside down, just too far upside down, then that's a short sale. A lot of people market to the pre-foreclosure list. Some people just blanket market to neighborhoods and they just find short sales. There's not really one way to market specifically to short sales, but the pre-foreclosure list is definitely a good way to start. And even in those deals, they may not all be short sales. You may actually be able to purchase those. So we're just kind of the trash bucket after all the options are exhausted. The last one left before foreclosure is going to be a short sale.
Yeah, guys. Like for example, like if you're using the list that we have, even if a lot of times you are sending it out to houses that have a high equity, maybe when they get back to you, if you're sending out a lot of posters, a lot of mail. Did I say poster? Is poster the right word? I can't think of the right word right now. Let's say you
Postcard?
I'm sorry.
Postcard, maybe?
Yeah, postcards. That's what I meant to say. Let's say you're sending out to 500 people, and they look like they all have very high equity. When they get back to you, and you're doing a little more research, you may find that they are actually underwater. And so those could be your short sale opportunities. You may not need to be actively looking for them, but maybe it comes out and then you do a little more digging. They turn out to be short sales. Um, can you wholesale during a short sale? I'm gonna let you answer that question, Melody.
Well, no. You can't put and/or signs on your contract. So I think that excludes your wholesaling option. If you're going to put it under your name, you better have the funds to be able to close on it. You're going to have to show proof of funds to the bank. So if you were going to wholesale it, you would actually have to do a double closing to where you close and then immediately after you resell it. So the title company can do double closings if there's no deed restriction. If there is a deed restriction, then absolutely not. You would not be able to wholesale it.
Got it.
There are some creative ways that I've seen other investors do wholesaling. They put it in a trust name. Because in a trust, you can add and remove names. I'm sure there's a cost, and please don't ask me questions on trust because I don't know all the information about them. But I have seen this where they'll put the offer into a trust name, and then once they close, then they just the initial buyer removes their name, and now the back-end buyer has it in their name. Still in the trust name, but underneath the trust, if that makes sense.
Cool. So this is gonna be a little bit longer question. In terms of the numbers and the profit margin that can possibly be done by by an investor. Okay, so that can be captured by an investor. Let's say the particular property is $100,000 ARV after repair, and it takes $20,000 to repair. In that case, if the BPO is like the appraisal is 80,000, then I have to pay $20,000 to fix it up. Then there's no I guess margin for the investor. So how does an investor's margin get incorporated in that?
It all depends on the appraised value. If we can get a fair value back, it's going to be better for the investor to make that margin. Some deals may not work for all the investors. If it's a retail house, just very minor cosmetic issues, like I said before, you're not going to get that property. But it all depends on the appraised value. If we can convince that appraiser or BPO, that, hey, it is going to cost $20,000 to fix all this up just to get it to ARV, we're going to hope that we get a lower value than that. Gotcha.
So if there is a kind of bigger, or I guess if there's a way that they cost less to repair it, or we're able to get a lower appraised value, then we can potentially, I guess, a margin from it.
Yes, and in certain circumstances with smaller banks like SPS or Auckland, if the value comes back and the numbers still aren't working, I'll say, hey, we can actually dispute this value. So let's go at it again. So just knowing what I know on my end will really help the investors on their end. But if it's, let's say it's a Chase FHA loan and the appraised value comes back at $200,000 and the investor's saying, oh, no, I need it at $160,000, I'm going to tell you there's no way the bank's going to come down. Because remember, FHA loans are way more strict. They have to go by the appraised value. It's just very, very hard to get an FHA loan down on their value once it's picked. But with a conventional loan, there's a little bit more leeway because there's no insurer of that loan like HUD is with FHA. So they're just more reasonable to deal with on conventional loans. And that's where the deed restrictions come in. If it's a conventional loan, since it's a private money or a private lender, private note holder, conventional loans, 9 out of 10 times will have a deed restriction. Don't ask me why or the reasons. The only thing I can think of is that, they're the note holder. They know that an investor is going to turn around and make money off this deal when the bank just took a loss. So I think that they get their feelings hurt so they can put on a deed restriction. Now with FHA loans, there are no deed restrictions. So again, conventional loans, you will have a deed restrictions. FHA loans, no deed restrictions. But when you, the investor, if you bring over a referral and I figure all this out, we'll tell you right up front what to expect. So nothing will be a surprise in the end.
So just kind of to clarify, if it doesn't have a deed restriction, then we can potentially do a double closing on wholesale.
Yes. Yes, and some title companies will allow you to wholesale it, but I don't know any of those title companies. I've just heard of them. So you're just going to have to know a good title company if you want to try to wholesale it, but I don't know how they're going to do that because the deed has to be recorded in the buyer's name that got approved. So that's when the double closing has to come into play.
Gotcha. So if I want to wholesale, I probably want to actually look into FHA if it, I guess, turn out to be underwater because there's no deed restriction and I can do a double closing.
Yeah, you would have to do a double closing, exactly. Or if you guys want to get super creative, if you know you're going to have to wholesale it and you can't close because you don't have the funds, then you would work out an outside agreement with your back-end buyer, and we put their contract in, so they have the deed restriction and not you. You would have to work that agreement out with your back-end buyer. It couldn't be on the HUD. It would have to be an outside agreement.
Is there any way to determine the bank to place a deed restriction? What determines the bank to place a deed restriction? I guess that's
going to be the type of loan. Conventional loan will have a deed restriction. 99% of the time, they will have a deed restriction. FHA loans will not have a deed restriction.
Gotcha. Okay, so Tommy, the question here. The bank is gonna want 88% of the before repair value. They want the 88% of the appraised value, not 88% of the ARV.
Right. So whatever the property appraises at, whatever that number is, and 100,000 is a good number just for simple math for me. So if the property appraises for 100,000, the bank wants to take home in their pocket 88,000. So that's 88% of the appraised value. Right. So that has to include all the closing costs. So remember, the bank is paying the commissions, the property taxes, any liens, the seller's settlement fee, HOA, whatever the case may be, all the seller's closing costs. The bank pays for that. So minus that has to net the bank 88% of the appraised value.
Got it. And let's say, kind of going back to the example, maybe the appraised value is 100,000 and the after repair value could be, say, 150,000.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Cool. Any other questions, you guys? Okay. So the investor's negotiation window is how much that 12% really is. Melody?
Yeah, I don't think I understand.
Yeah. So Daniel, the 12%, the difference between how much the bank comes in and what the appraisal value is that 12%, and that 12% goes into the commission costs and the closing costs and all that stuff. The investor's negotiation window or potential margin is gonna be what your true ARV is and what the appraised value is. Okay, that difference, sans the repair cost, if there's a big difference, those are gonna be where your margin is gonna be. So it all depends on what the appraisal value comes in as.
Yep, that determines everything in a short sale. Now, the example I used before, let's say the appraised value comes in at 100,000, so the bank's going to want 88,000 after all the closing costs. But let's say the closing costs are only 5,000. So I can get you the property for, well, let's do some simple math. So yeah, I could get you the property for 93,000 in that case. If the closing costs are very, very minimal, then yeah, the sales price can be reduced. It's all about the numbers. So, but remember, the bank has to take home 88% of the appraised value.
Cool. Any other questions, anyone? Going once, going twice, going three times. Oh, there is a question.
And you guys are welcome to call me at any point in time and just ask me questions. I have new investors who are at the property step outside and call me and say, hey, Mel, I think this might be a short sale. They run this scenario by me, and I'll tell them, yes, that's a short sale, or I'll say, no, that's not a short sale. So you guys can call me anytime. Even if you're marketing, if you want to add something to your marketing piece, call me and I can tell you, what verbiage to put in there if you want. However I can help, I'd be more than happy.
A melody. I don't know if there's a way for you to
I can see it.
adjust your screen so you can see the questions as well. But this one is so in terms of making it a good deal, we're counting on the bank to underestimate either the after repair value or or underestimated the repair cost, so that there's enough margin for us as an investor.
Right. So we're counting on the bank to understand both. We want them to know what the ARV is of that neighborhood, but we also want them to understand the condition of our property. So if our property is going to need $50,000 just to get it to ARV, then that $50,000 will be deducted from their appraised value. So that's why it's so important that the value comes back very fair. Because in this scenario, let's say there is $50,000 worth of repair, but the appraiser says, oh, there's only $10,000. Well, we're going to get a high value, and then we'll never be able to sell it because nobody's going to be able to buy it because they're going to have to put so much work in it, probably one, just to live in it, and two, to be able to sell it and make money.
So we want them to underestimate. I guess the question is, we want them to kind of underestimate. Oh, actually, I guess we want them to overestimate the repair cost.
Yes.
And underestimate the appraisal value.
ARV. Yep. And that's where you guys meeting the appraisers is always a great idea. So you can bring your information and show them. Because an appraiser doesn't know how much foundation's really going to cost. They can guesstimate, but if you actually have a repair bid there and say, yeah, we had a guy come out already, this is the quote we got, then they're more likely to use your repair bid versus the numbers that they have to go by. So that's why I always say we want to ensure a fair value. So you bring them all the information you can, because that's the appraiser's job, is to take all the information and make a decision based on that and give us the value from that. So if nobody meets the appraiser out there and shows them what the true cost would be to actually repair this, then yeah, we'll probably get stuck with a high value, and it'll be a lot harder to sell at a high value. So I see your other question. Again, it's all about the numbers. The bank's going to have an appraised value. They're going to want 88% of that. If the closing costs aren't the 12%, then yeah, we can decrease the sales price so the bank can still get their 88%. I think that was her last question.
There's two more. If the appraiser is assigning the value of the price at the upgraded condition and not at the current condition. So I can answer that one. The appraisal value is gonna be the as is condition.
Yes.
The appraiser is assigning the as is condition.
Correct.
So how they're gonna figure that out is and I guess Melody, you can chime in too. I guess there might be two ways to do it, right? You can either look at the current retail sales of the neighborhood, which is probably easier to do than looking for investment grade properties to assign that as is value. is to look at the after repair value of the whole neighborhood, and they're going to look at the cost, the repair cost to get it to the after repair value. The difference between that is going to be the as-is value.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so a distressed property is not going to appraise for, the next door neighbor's house that is fully loaded with granite countertops and hardwood floors and, molding. They're not going to appraise the same. The value will come in lower because that current condition of the subject property is not worth it.
Right. So going back to kind of the comment below is that, hey, if we want the appraiser to have a ARV that they can come up with, let's say a true ARV is 150,000, but they are looking at a little bit around and they're going, hey, the ARV is 130,000, right? And then if the repair was actually supposed to be $50,000. But it's actually it's a wrong example. I guess we actually need to come up with an example of all the numbers to kind of see where the margin is. But let's go back. If the rehab, in truth, is gonna cost 10,000, but the appraiser thinks it's actually gonna cost 20,000, right? Then that kind of the difference in the estimation that's going to work in the investor's favor.
Absolutely. Yeah. So an appraiser, they go out, they pull comps from the surrounding neighborhoods, and basically, I don't think that they go into a lot of detail. That's why I always present my comps to the appraiser and say, hey, this house sold for this amount, but for these reasons, they had all these upgrades. So you can't compare that to my property. And if you do, then you need to subtract about 40,000 because it's going to take that much money just to put into this subject property to get it to that ARV price of that next door neighbor's house. So therefore, the value will come in lower than ARV because they are factoring the repairs needed.
Is this clear, or do you guys want to take a look at an example? Would that be more clear?
So I see a question. If the bank requires 88% of the current condition, then the repair costs aren't repair costs irrelevant? No. So we're trying to get that as is value. So they're factoring in the repairs to that value. So if we're not meeting the appraiser and showing him, hey, it's going to cost $5,000 for a foundation, $12,000 for a roof, then the value is going to come in a lot higher because that appraiser is not going to take into consideration the true cost of the repair. So you want to present your whole case to that appraiser so a fair value comes back in, and primarily a low value. Of that low value, that's when the bank will say, okay, after all the closing costs and everything said and done with, we'll take home 88% of this appraised value. So if you're not including the repairs, then the value is going to come in higher, meaning you'll have to pay more.
I'm coming up with an example real quick, so I guess maybe we can make it a little more clear. Let me switch it to my screen.
And if it helps, just forget about the 88%. The bank wants the appraised value. And if I can work the numbers to get the appraised value just a tad bit lower, I'm going to do that. I think maybe the 88,000 is confusing people, and I don't mean it to, and I'm sorry if I did. But basically, the banks are going to go appraise the property. Whatever that appraised value is, that's what they're going to want for an offer amount. Now, the net that they bring home is going to be less, of course, because they have to account for all the closing costs associated with the short sale.
Oops. Yeah, let me just finish this because I'm recording this too, so I can do this, and we can have it as reference to the 12,000 goes to closing costs, various closing costs. All right, so then we let's say in actuality, the ARV is 150,000, and the repair is actually just going to be 20,000, right? Then we are purchasing at 100,000. We repair for 20,000, and we sell at 150,000. So our profit would be just kind of simple math. Of course, there's closing costs and all that stuff when you exit. Then that's where you benefit as an investor.
Yeah.
So I think this would be an example. So the appraiser is underestimating the ARV and overestimating the repair. So they have a very low appraised value. And only when that happens, then we can profit as investors, kind of the difference. And in this case, we'll get about 30% profit.
Oh, okay. I see what you did there.
Or how much is it? I have to. This is where my all my arithmetic from school, from middle school and high school is not paying off right now. But let's just say, like in this case, the profit is 50,000.
Yeah. And Steve, I have a HUD pulled up here, a settlement statement to kind of break down an actual transaction too, if you think that'll help.
Sure, yeah. Should I make you the presenter?
Oh, no. Finish what you're doing. I like what you're doing.
I'm good here. So if that makes sense to you guys, and again, you can refer back to it and pause the screen. So I want just kind of give everyone a full picture. I want to take a look at the Melody statement, and that's where the 12,000 goes to in this example.
Yeah. So hopefully this will help. So are you able to see it yet?
Not yet. Oh, yes.
Okay. So if we look up here on line 401, it says that the contract sales price is 131. That's the bank's appraised value. They went to this house and said, we want 131,000. So from this, if you times 131 times 88%, the bank says that they want to bring home in their pocket after all closing costs $115,280. That will meet their net. So if we scroll down here, these are all the closing costs on line 502. And just bear with me, I'm going to scroll down to the second page to get that number. So the commission is $78.60. Then you have a settlement fee, you have title insurance, you have a tax certification fee, which all adds up to $99.32. So that's line 1,400. So these are part of the closing costs, equal $9,000, so almost $10,000. And that line is brought up right here to 502. So these are the closing costs. The relocation incentive, that's the $3,000. This seller is eligible and going to get it because she maintained the property. She still lives there. She hasn't moved. She's actually in the process now. But she will get this $3,000 after closing. And then minus the property taxes, after all those closing costs, the bank's bringing home $116,392.70. But remember, they want 88%. So we're over the appraised value by, or their net, excuse me, 3,932. It's not much. But this is a breakdown of a HUD. So well, I did that wrong. So maybe this makes it a little bit clearer, just talking about closing costs and 88%. So the bank is getting $1,000, $1,112 more. And they're happy with that. The bank is getting more than their net. No wonder they approve this offer and we're going to closing. So in this scenario, I could have gone back to the buyer and said, hey, you guys could offer 129, or excuse me, 130, and we'd be safe. So that's where I'm saying we could work with the numbers. As long as they're meeting their net, we could adjust the appraised value if we needed to, or if we could.
Cool. So, Willie, the your question is the appraiser value of the ARV or the value of the house condition at the time of appraisal? So, if we kind of go back to that example that I have, the $100,000 is based on the as-is condition. Okay, and the as-is
The
condition
current, yes.
is calculated by looking at the when they calculate their own ARV and subtracting the cost of repair for them to come up with their appraised value of the asset's condition.
You said it perfectly.
Okay? I hope that helps. Any other questions, you guys? I guess I can definitely send out this file to you guys if you want to keep it with the numbers, if that helps. I can what I can do is I can copy all these numbers and I can send it out to everyone as an example. Screenshots. Yeah. Cool. Excellent, you guys. Thank you very much, Melody. Thank you so much. I think we went over a little bit, but it's really good that we go over all these details because short sale is a very complicated process, and it's really good that you came and you joined us and share all your expertise. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. And yeah, if you have any remaining questions, maybe something I wasn't clear on, feel free to call me directly, and I'd be happy to explain it, and so we all understand the process.
Cool, fantastic. Thanks, Melody.
Yeah,
Thanks everyone for attending. And we got Melody's contact information in the recording. I can also follow up with her contact information as well, so you guys can reach out to her individually.
Yeah, awesome. Good luck out there, guys and gals.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Melody. Talk to y'all later.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.